Oh mundo despierta, sacude tus seres polvorientos, purifica y rectifica para crear nuevas formas de pensar.
The mystical truths in religions East and West are brought to light again and made relevant for our time by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, world-renowned author and spiritual teacher.
Your explanation of the violet flame on yesterday's program sounded pretty technical. Can you simplify it for us?
Well, you know, the violet flame is really a very simple gift of the Holy Spirit. But Saint Germain is the master alchemist. He is the scientist of the age of science. All inventions, when they become applied, are simple to the use of the everyday man. It's not necessary that we know all of the technical workings of the violet flame to use it every day. I like the simple mantra to the violet flame. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. This mantra, repeated with great sincerity within the depths of one's heart, after a period of meditation, can draw all the energies of one's communion with God through prayer and meditation into focus in the heart for the wholeness and the integration of the four lower bodies. And so our listeners who don't happen to have one of our decree books can simply write down this mantra. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. And as we say this, we simply see the entire body filled with a violet light, crackling, sparkling, leaping violet flame, passing through and consuming that substance which is impure. This, then, is the beginning of healing, but there are many steps to healing.
Can you tell us what these steps are?
I think it is very important to establish meditation upon one's inner blueprint, upon the soul and its pattern. I call this the science of the immaculate concept. It really is the sacred science of the mother. A certain understanding of this science has filtered through the metaphysical movements of the past century. Basically, it is the realization that God has made man in his image and likeness, and therefore behind the outer manifestation there is a pure reality, there is a perfect reality and a perfect form. We have to have clearly in mind that the natural state of being is wholeness, is oneness with God, is the perfection of the law. This perfection, this law, this being is the true self that exists behind the outer manifestation of an absence of wholeness. In reality, this is the real self which we would become. We use then the gift of God of clear seeing through the all-seeing eye to behold the perfect Master. We see before us Jesus the Christ. We have his image clearly in mind as he is a key figure in our overcoming. Or we may visualize the Buddha or Kuan Yin or Mother Mary. We translate the perfection of these sons and daughters of God to our own self. And in the calmness of our meditation upon God, we know that this identity is also native to the self. Then we begin to mentally affirm that perfection, even as we verbalize that perfection through the science of the spoken word. You know, Jesus used a number of mantras in his ministry, and these are taken as simple expressions about himself. He used the word I am to declare, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Not understanding the use of I am as the name of God, people have thought that he was referring only to the man Jesus. But he was referring to the fact that the God in Jesus is, was, and ever shall be the way, the truth, and the life. We, as joint heirs with Christ, can make that same affirmation. We can declare with Jesus and with Saint Germain, I am the way, the truth, and the life. As long as we know that we are saying, God in me, Christ in me, is the way, the truth, and the life. The consequence of that affirmation must be wholeness. if we enter into it as a meditation and really understand it as a mathematical formula. It's an equation of being. If God is where I am, if He in truth is congruent with myself here and now, if God is the way, the truth, and the life within me, then I too must be that reflection and the fullness of that glory. This is a natural process of healing which we follow as alchemists of the sacred fire, as we would also become scientists with the great scientist Jesus Christ.
What about the business of simply saying one isn't sick?
Well, that comes into a denial. It's all right to deny, but one must follow it up with filling the temple with light. You see, energy can be neither created nor destroyed. When one merely denies that one is sick, one is practicing a form of auto-hypnosis. One is hypnotizing the self into believing one is not sick, but one is not doing anything with the energy. This energy must be dealt with. It is going to go somewhere. If it is manifesting as disease in the physical body and we deny its presence, it may very well manifest then in the feeling body or the mental body, or be driven deep into the subconscious. The Ascended Masters have told us that if we merely deny disease, we are using our free will to alter the working out of karma. Karma simply is the law of cause and effect. All disease is an effect of a prior cause, and usually that cause is some form of mental or feeling discord. Now that discord eventually works itself out on the physical level, and then we are purged of it at every other level. The cycles of the flow of energy in the four lower bodies always move from the memory, where everything is recorded in the subconscious level, through the mental body, through the feeling body, and finally the ultimate effects will be physical. Old age, disease, disintegration, decay are all the result of prior causes recorded in the etheric, coming from the mental and emotional bodies. Denying disease, then, can be a form of what I call mental physics. It is using the mind to rearrange matter, but it is not getting at the cause behind the effect. The only energy that can erase those effects is the energy of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is absolutely essential to our healing and to our wholeness. The specific energy of the Holy Spirit which is required is the violet flame, the light of forgiveness. This is why Jesus said, "Thy sins be forgiven thee," because Jesus invoked, by the science of the spoken word, this energy of the Holy Spirit. We need to be careful then that we remove the cause, because then we will be forever free from the effects. The Ascended Masters have taught us that if we, so to speak, shove all effects in the outer world back into the subconscious by simply walking around denying that anything exists, we are simply postponing the day of reckoning, and in a future incarnation we are going to have to deal with those subconscious patterns. However, the action of denying evil has a very important part in our demonstration of the science of the Mother. It comes from Jesus' teaching, "This kind cometh not out, but by prayer and fasting." Prayer and fasting represents the yin and the yang, or the Father, the Mother, the Alpha and Omega balance of this science of wholeness. Prayer is imploring God for the strength, the energy, the light that is necessary for wholeness. But fasting is the denial, or the refraining from the engaging of our energies in evil, which is a code name, by the way, for energy veil. So prayer and fasting is like affirmation and denial. We affirm truth, and by the power of that affirmation, we can say the opposite. For instance, we can say, "I am whole, and I am the manifestation of God." Then we can deny the opposite, and there is no disease, there is no incompleteness, there is no absence of the fullness of God's being in me. That denial when it goes along with an affirmation and is accompanied by the use of the violet flame, represents a more complete formula for healing.
Is instantaneous healing possible?
It certainly is possible.
Does it happen often?
Well, it happens a great deal, and we see it happening every day. It comes by belief. It comes by the gift of the Holy Spirit. But often the instantaneous healing is a manifestation of the mastery of the healer rather than the one healed. For instance, Lazarus was raised from the dead by Jesus. This was a demonstration of Jesus' mastery over death. Lazarus himself subsequently died. He had not mastered the energies of life over death, and subsequent to his death, he reincarnated and has continued to reincarnate and is yet to prove the law of the ascension.
So it's up to the individual to heal himself in the ultimate sense.
The path of the Ascended Masters is a teaching of physician, heal thyself. In the Aquarian age, the Ascended Masters are not so much interested in instantaneous healings, whereby the individual does not take the responsibility for his mistakes and errors and misuses of the Holy Spirit, but they are interested in the individual coming to grips with his own karma, the law of cause and effect, and understanding, as a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
Thank you very much.
This is a presentation of the Summit Lighthouse, an international spiritual organization dedicated to universal enlightenment. Founded in 1958, the Summit Lighthouse is a beacon of truth to thousands worldwide and a leader in New Thought spirituality.